When do you think would be a moment, like a singularity moment for the metaverse, where there's a lot of ways to ask this question, but you know, people will have many or most of their meaningful experiences in the metaverse versus the real world. And actually, it's interesting to think about the fact that a lot of people are having the most important moments of their life happen in the digital sphere, especially now during COVID. You know, like even falling in love or meeting friends or getting excited about stuff that is happening on the 2D digital plane. When do you think the metaverse will provide those experiences for a large number, like a
Yeah, I think it's a
majority of the
really
population?
good question. There was someone, I read this piece that framed this as a lot of people think that the metaverse is about a place, but one definition of this is it's about a time when basically immersive digital worlds become the primary way that we live our lives and spend our time. I think that that's a reasonable construct, and from that perspective, I think you also just want to look at this as a continuation because it's not like, okay, we are building digital worlds, but we don't have that today. I think you and I probably already live a very large part of our life in digital worlds. They're just not 3D immersive virtual reality, but I do a lot of meetings over video, or I spend a lot of time writing things over email or WhatsApp or whatever. So what is it going to take to get there for kind of the immersive presence version of this, which I think is what you're asking? And for that, I think that there's just a bunch of different use cases, right? And I think when you're building technology, I think you're a lot of it is just you're managing this duality where on the one hand you want to build these elegant things that can scale and have billions of people use them and get value from them, and then on the other hand you're fighting this kind of ground game where it's just there are just a lot of different use cases and people do different things, and like you want to be able to unlock them. So the first ones that we basically went after were gaming, with Quest, and social experiences. And this is, it goes back to when we started working on virtual reality. My theory at the time was basically people thought about it as gaming, but if you look at all computing platforms up to that point, gaming is a huge part. It was a huge part of PCs. It was a huge part of mobile, but it was also very decentralized, right? There wasn't, for the most part, one or two gaming companies. There were a lot of gaming companies, and gaming is somewhat hits based. I mean, we're getting some games that have more longevity, but in general, there were a lot of different games out there. But on PC and on mobile, the companies that focused on communication and social interaction, there tended to be a smaller number of those, and that ended up being just as important of a thing as all of the games that you did combined. I think productivity is another area. That's obviously something that we've historically been less focused on, but I think is going to be really important for
With
this.
workroom, or do you mean productivity in the collaborative
Yeah, I
aspect,
think
or
that there's a workrooms aspect of this, like a meeting aspect, and then I think that there's like a Word, Excel, productivity. You're working or coding or what knowledge work, right? It's as opposed to just meetings. So you can kind of go through all these different use cases. Gaming, I think we're well on our way. Social, I think we're just the kind of preeminent company that focuses on this, and I think that that's already on Quest becoming the if you look at the list of what are the top apps, social apps are already number 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of becoming a critical thing. But I don't know. I would imagine for someone like you, it'll be, until we get, a lot of the work things dialed in, right? When this is just like much more adopted and clearly better than Zoom for VC. When, if you're doing your coding or your writing or whatever it is, in VR, which it's not that far off to imagine that, because pretty soon you're just gonna be able to have a screen that's bigger than, it'll be your ideal setup, and you can bring it with you and put it on anywhere and have your kind of ideal workstation. So I think that there are a few things to work out on that, but I don't think that that's more than 5 years off. And then you'll get a bunch of other things that like aren't even possible, or you don't even think about using a phone or PC for today, like fitness, right? So I mean, I know you're we were talking before about how you're into running, and like I'm really into a lot of things around fitness as well. Different things in different places. I got really into hydrofoiling recently, and
nice?
and
I saw a video.
yeah, and surfing, and and I used to fence competitively. I like run. So
And you were saying that you were thinking about trying different martial arts, and I tried to trick you and convince you into doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Or you actually mentioned that that was one you're curious about, and I
was that a
definitely,
trick?
yeah, I don't know. We're in the metaverse now,
Yeah, no,
replaying this
I mean,
anyway.
I took that seriously. I thought that was a real uh, suggestion.
That would be an amazing chance if we ever step on the mat together and just like roll around. I'll show you some moves.
Well, give me a year to train, and then we
This is
can do
like
it.
Rock. You know, you've seen Rocky Four, where the Russian faces off the American. I'm the Russian in this picture, and then you're the Rocky, the underdog that gets to win in the
The
end.
idea of me as Rocky and like
Yeah.
fighting is
If he dies, he dies. Sorry, just had this.
I mean,
Anyway, yeah.
but I mean, a lot of aspects of fitness. I don't know if you've tried Supernatural on Quest or
So first of all, can I just comment on the
yeah,
fact every time I played around with Quest 2, I get giddy every time I step into virtual reality. So you mentioned productivity and all those kinds of things. That's definitely something I'm excited about. But really, I just love the possibilities of stepping into that world. It's maybe it's the introvert in me, but it just feels like the most convenient way to travel into worlds that are similar to the real world or totally different. It's like Alice in Wonderland. Just try out crazy stuff. The possibilities are endless. And I personally am just get excited for stepping in those virtual worlds. I'm a huge fan. In terms of the productivity as a programmer, I spend most of my day programming. That's really interesting also. But then you have to develop the right IDEs. You have to develop
yeah,
there has to be a threshold where a large amount of the programming community moves there. But the
yeah.
collaborative aspects that are possible in terms of meetings, in terms of the when two coders are working together, I mean that the possibilities there are super super exciting.
I think that in building this, we sort of need to balance. There are going to be some new things that you just couldn't do before. And those are going to be the amazing experiences. So teleporting to any place, right? Whether it's a real place or something that people made. And I mean, some of the experiences around how we can build stuff in new ways where, a lot of the stuff that, when I'm coding stuff, it's like, all right, you code it and then you build it and then you see it afterwards. But increasingly, it's going to be possible to, you're in a world and you're building the world as you are in it and kind of manipulating it. One of the things that we showed at our Inside the Lab for recent artificial intelligence progress is this builder bot program where now you can just talk to it and say, hey, okay, I'm in this world, like put some trees over there, and it'll do that. And like, all right, put some bottles of water on on our picnic blanket, and it'll do that, and you're in the world. And I think there are going to be new paradigms for coding. So yeah, there are going to be some things that I think are just pretty amazing, especially the first few times that you do them, that you're like, whoa, like I've never had an experience like this. But most of your life, I would imagine, is not doing things that are amazing for the first time. A lot of this, in terms of, I mean, just answering your question from before around what is it going to take before you're spending most of your time in this. Well, first of all, let me just say it as an aside. The goal isn't to have people spend a lot more time in computing.
I'm
It's to
asking
make
for
it so that,
myself.
yeah, it's to
When
make
will I spend all of my time in?
it's to
in
make
the
yeah,
metaverse?
it's to make computing more natural. But
Yes.
um, but I think you will spend most of your computing time in this when it does the things that you use computing for somewhat better. So, maybe having your perfect workstation is a 5% improvement on your coding productivity. Maybe it's not like a, completely new thing. But I mean, look, if I could increase the productivity of every engineer at Meta by 5%, we'd buy those devices for everyone. And I imagine, a lot of other companies would too. And that's how you start getting to the scale that I think, makes this rival some of the bigger computing platforms that exist today.